I want to make sure that I fully process that emotion so that when I come home, I'm not projecting that onto someone else or displacing that on someone else.
You're saying that the emotion itself is not necessarily good or bad. It's just data or information
Mhm.
in motion, right? It's the emote part. But that you also said, and I'm going to dig into this one a little bit more, that emotions might need boundaries or they might need fuel to grow, right? Depending on whether they're good or bad. So let's go with the side of the emotions that a lot of us are concerned about right now. In our pre-interview chat, we spent a lot of time talking about COVID and how it's affecting, groups, families, organizations, and much more. So when we have these negative, uncomfortable emotions and you say we need boundaries around them, tell us first of all how we know, oh, that's something I want to put a boundary around. And then more importantly, how do we do it?
Yeah. So when I think of boundaries, I think of how is this going to impact me and how is it going to impact others? The emotion itself, we always need to address because if we don't address it, it'll just present itself in some way. It'll manifest either in our bodies or in our communication with someone else. We'll project that emotion, we'll displace that emotion. So we need to address every emotion that we feel because, again, emotions themselves are neither negative or toxic, right? They just are. They're data. It's the energy that can become toxic or negative. So, for example, someone may suppress anxiety because they just don't want to deal with it. They don't have the bandwidth to deal with it. So they suppress it and now they're starting to have it's manifesting in their body as nausea or a headache or fatigue or burnout. So that is the boundary where you need to say, I am not going to let this physically affect me. But in order to do that, you have to fully process that emotion and take care of it. So, why am I anxious? What is causing me to be anxious? Is it a fear of the future? Or is it something I've experienced in the past that is allowing me to have unresolved issues? Now I have anxiety. And then also setting those boundaries to make sure that we're not impacting others in a way that's negative. So if I've had a really stressful day at work, I want to make sure that I fully process that emotion so that when I come home, I'm not projecting that onto someone else or displacing that on someone else. And the difference between displacement and projection is if let's say let's say I'm a high performer. So I'm going to take it from a different perspective. If I'm a top performer, then projection would be assuming that other person should be just as high of a performer as I am. Or if I'm being untruthful about something and I'm being dishonest, then I project that onto others and assume that they are also dishonest and I can't trust them. That is projection. Displacement is whenever we have a strong emotion. For example, we're upset at work. We get home and we're angry about what happened, but we couldn't lash out at our boss because we may get in trouble. So instead, we come home and maybe take that out on our children or our spouse and get upset and angry with them. That is displacement. So it's a transfer of that emotional energy onto someone else. And that's where we need to set boundaries because we don't want to affect other people. Because guess what? Now they have that energy, right? And so now they can project that or displace that, I'm sorry, onto other people. So it just sets into motion this domino effect. That's why boundaries are so important. So we have two roles: preventing that energy from escaping us, so taking control of it, right? But also not allowing the energy of others to impact us. So we're setting boundaries on two sides. So there should be like this no man's land in between if we're doing it right. Because if someone's coming at us with negative energy, we need to know how to say, I am not going to take that on. I'm going to put a stop there and I'm going to set up this wall, this boundary, and they're going to have to handle that energy.
It's so interesting, Brittney-Nichole, that we're talking about this today because you described this